Будьмо уважні. В той час, як увійшов Ісус в човен, Він переплив і прибув у своє місто. І от принесли до нього розслабленого, лежав на ложа, побачивши їхню віру. Ісус сказав розслабленому: бадьорися, сину, відпускаючи тобі гріхи твої. Тут деякі з книжників заговорили між собою: Він хулить. Ісус, знаючи їхні думки, каже: чого лукаве думаєте в серцях ваших? Що легше сказати, відпускаючи твої гріхи, чи сказати, встань і ходи? Та щоб ви знали, що Син людський має владу на землі відпускати гріхи, каже розслабленому: встань, візьми твої ноші і йди до свого дому. Встав той і пішов до свого дому. Народ же, бачивши це, налякався і славив Бога, що дав таку владу людям. At that time, Jesus entered a boat, made the crossing, and came into his own town. And there were people brought to him. They brought him a paralytic lying on a stretcher. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, courage, child, your sins are forgiven. At that, some of the scribes and Pharisees said to themselves, this man is blaspheming. Jesus knew what they were thinking and said, why do you harbor evil thoughts? Which is easier, to say, your sins are forgiven, or to say, rise and walk? But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. Then he said to the paralytic, rise, pick up your stretcher and go home. He rose and went home. When the crowd saw this, they were struck with awe and glorified God, who had given such authority to human beings. Слава Ісусу Христу! Питається Ісус, чого лукаве думаєте в серцях ваших? Ми дуже часто оцінюємо себе, що з нами відбувається, що ми переживаємо, що ми придбали і що ми стратили. А тут Ісус ще хоче підкреслити, не аж таке важне, що Він одного чоловіка виздоровив, але яке важне в нас, що ми думаємо, бо наші думки лише ми і Бог знає, лише ми і Бог розуміє, що добрі думки мають яку силу, і як зла думка, що росте в наших серцях і в думках, може так само і знищити нашу душу і наше серце. Бо людина, що зле думає і помишляє, думає, що нічого не пошкодило її. Але то неправда. Це, що в наших думках і серцях, коли святі казали, дуже коротка дорога від серця і розума до руки і до ноги. Це означає, це, що ми думаємо, керує нами. Бо ми будемо робити це навіть мимоволі, що ми думаємо по вечорах, по тих часах, коли ми самі сидимо і розмишляємо. То я лише хочу підкреслити цю одну річ, щоб ми під час цілого тижня уважали, що ми думаємо, і завжди просити Бога: Боже, керуй моїми думками, дай мені дорогу до щастя і до здоров'я, але так само, щоб мої думки мали ту дорогу до Тебе і до ближнього. То як ми будемо самі, думайте, що Ісус каже тобі, чого лукаве або чого добре ти помишляєшся в своєму серці, своїй думці. Пануймо над собою, а ще краще молімося, щоб Святий Дух керував нашими думками. We call each other names, not by the name we are given by our parents, And sometimes it's a nickname. You're as strong as Hercules. You're as smart as Einstein. Or sometimes we make fun of one another, like two brothers who got into a fight and one called the other one dumb and the mother said, apologize. And she said, I'm so sorry you're dumb. But on a more serious note, if you remember, until the year 2015, for 35 years, China had a one-child policy. You were officially only able to give birth to one child. It was a tragic policy that ended. But one of the results of this kind of policy was that two words began to fall out of usage. They made no more sense. The word brother and the word sister made no more sense in China. And people began to see with one child that one child had to take care of grandparents and parents all alone. And it became a very sad commentary on a state-sponsored law that in 2015 was gradually canceled. And what comparison can I make to this? The saints, when they meditated on the crucifixion of Jesus, and one of the saints was asked, where did you learn so much about human beings? And he says, at the foot of the cross, when I thought and meditated on the fact, Jesus died for us when we considered ourselves his enemy. The very people that were crucifying Jesus were the people that he was giving his life for, to remind us that we are all brothers and sisters. And so when we are faced with a difficult time with our brother or a sister because they are a pain in the neck, or they have said or done something that has hurt us, remind yourself that you should be very careful how you treat the children of the God that you pray for. How often we can say, why doesn't God just get rid of this person? And ask yourself a question, especially if you're a parent. Which child would you kill to get rid of evil in this world? It's a horrible and harsh question. But that's the question we often ask about God when we see people doing horrible things in this world. Wouldn't it be better, like Jesus, for us to pray, Lord, change their mind. Stop them from doing this horrible thing. Lord, I know what they're doing is very, very evil. Perhaps they can change. This does not mean that we don't defend ourselves. This doesn't mean that we don't put people in prison. Of course, every society and every person has a right to self-defense. But somehow, it should be tinged with Christian mercy, and we should always look at the people that are hurting us as they were in pain themselves before they ever struck out at us. So in your vocabulary, maybe we should get rid of the words called enemy and replace them with the words that Jesus told us. That's my brother, that's my sister, and they're doing horrible things. What can I do to make the world better, instead of simply wishing them evil and giving a commentary on how bad things are? That's what makes Christians different. Because looking at the cross, we say, if Christ would have waited us to be his friends, to be good, we never would have been saved. But even today, salvation and forgiveness is an option and a proposition. It doesn't have to be accepted. But one of the ways that we show people that we are on the road to salvation is that we drop the word enemy from our vocabulary and say deep in our heart, it's very difficult with this person, but they are my brother and sister, and more important, we have a common God that we call our Father. Slava Isusu Christu. Промовмо всі з усієї душі, з усієї